Welcome to the Red Flags Only podcast, where we dive into issues that you thought you may have understood, but may have missed some signs along the way. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe because we truly appreciate the support. I am your host, Dion Royal, and today I want to talk about a high school track meet in a quiet Texas suburb. A story gripping the deep heart of Texas and raising some very difficult questions nationwide. It was a moment meant for competition, camaraderie, and celebration, but in a matter of seconds, it kind of all unraveled. Two teenage boys, both high school juniors, stood under the same sky on a spring afternoon in Frisco, but only one would make it home that day. Now, here's what we think we know. Tonight, we go inside a heartbreaking and horrifying moment that left one teen dead, another in handcuffs, and a community searching for answers. Karmelo Anthony, no, not the NBA Basketball Hall of Famer, but the 17-year-old from Frisco, Texas, who is currently being charged with murder and held on a $1 million bond. Let's run down some of the things that we think we do know before we begin to speak on the tragedy uh, from our perspective. Now, this was truly an avoidable tragedy, and our prayers go out to both families as they deal with the fallout from the incident. And just giving a quick rundown, April 2nd, 2025, incident occurred during a track meet at Kirkendall Stadium in Frisco, Texas, resulting in the death of 17-year-old Austin Metcalf, a junior at Frisco Memorial High School. Karmelo Anthony, also 17 and a student at Frisco Centennial High School, has been charged with first-degree murder in connection with Metcalf's death. According to the arrest affidavit, now I need y'all to keep that shit in mind. I need y'all to keep that in mind. It was 2 minutes. Okay, I got you. So I need y'all to keep that in mind because according to the arrest affidavit, this means these were things that were told to the police on the scene, right? So, according to the arrest affidavit, the altercation began when Metcalf asked Anthony to move from under Memorial High School's team tent. Witnesses reported that Anthony allegedly responded, "Touch me and see what happens." Other reports state that he said, "Make me move." But in the affidavit, it says, "Touch me and see what happens." Subsequently, Metcalf pushed Anthony, who then retrieved a knife from his backpack and stabbed Metcalf in the chest. Metcalf was transported to a local hospital where he was pronounced dead shortly after arrival. Upon his arrest, Anthony reportedly, but I'm going to say allegedly, told officers, "I was just protecting myself," and inquired whether the incident could be considered self-defense. He is currently being held on a $1 million bond. His legal team has indicated plans to seek a bond reduction, arguing that the amount is excessive. The Metcalf family is mourning the loss of son Austin, remembering him as an accomplished student athlete with a 4.0 GPA and strong leadership qualities and blah, blah, blah. Yakety smackety, a cool glass of OJ to quench your thirst. His twin brother Hunter, who was also present at the incident, attempted to render aid, whatever that means. The Metcalf family has initiated a fundraising campaign, which which has raised nearly $250,000 to assist with expenses. In the aftermath of the incident, Frisco police have cautioned the public about the spread of misinformation on social media. Authorities have identified fake accounts and falsified documents, including a fabricated medical examiner's report circulating online. Police emphasize that disseminating false information is a criminal offense and urge the public to rely on official sources for accurate updates. The investigation into the circumstances surrounding the stabbing is ongoing. Authorities are conducting interviews with witnesses and reviewing evidence to determine the sequence of events and any potential charges. The community remains vigilant for official communications from law enforcement regarding developments in the case. In an interview with Fox News, Austin Metcalf's father said, now this is on tape. I'm not making this up. I'm quoting it from the video. I can't show the video right here, but you can go and find this. This is on Fox News website. I don't know if they're going to keep it up or take it down after they try to flip this case and railroad it, but like I said, in an interview with Fox News, Austin Metcalf's father said, "My son is gone and he will never come home again. I want to clarify something right off the start because I've already heard some rumors and gossip. This was not a race thing. This was not a political thing. Please do not comment if you do not know what happened. Try not to turn this into a racial thing. It was not. Do not politicize it. It's not. This is a human being thing. This person made a bad choice and affected both his family and my family forever. It's a very unfortunate thing, but I know exactly what happened. So if you weren't there, please don't spread rumors." Again, I cannot overstate that this was a truly tragic event that could have and should have been avoided. But I do want y'all to pay attention to exactly what Dad just said in the last quote. That wasn't me. Those are his exact words on Fox News. I usually don't cover stuff like this because a lot of times you can't just jump out the window. But there's a multitude of context that was left out in the mainstream media, and I think I want to kind of at least give some people that don't necessarily like to read or pay a lot of attention some insight on what was happening in the background. Now, first of all, by all accounts, the young man, Mr. Anthony, was underneath the tent because it was raining. Some local news outlets and weather stations called it a downpour, a torrential downpour. It started raining violently during the track meet, with the temperatures dropping up to 6 degrees in some areas. Mr. Anthony was a track and football athlete, but this was a track meet, and while we aren't sure if he was participating, he obviously had as much right to be there as anyone else, as there were no reported issues before this incident occurred and he was allowed into the stadium. There's another obvious question that also begs to be asked. Where were the adults on staff at the time? Coaches, security, teachers, and many administrators are usually on site at these events. What were they doing while all this was going on? And then here's the biggest, most obvious issue for black folks in all of this. Why do white people that have no power, authority, or special privilege granted to police the actions and whereabouts of black people always want to know what we doing? Where you going, son? What you doing there, boy? You know, the "we don't like your kind around here" types, that type of stuff. Where do we think that comes from? Now, we don't have to answer that because this country has a history of this behavior, which is only kind of emboldened by the current state of affairs in the government. Even bigger than that is the bail amount set for a 17-year-old who I believe was just defending himself, as he initially told police on the scene. $1 million is quite excessive for a young man with no priors and who's not a flight risk. This is where that system of justice, that's quotey fingers, air quotes for me, gets a little murky for me. Now, if we be honest, we can all speculate, but we can never know what truly went down on that day. But if we look at historically how these things have been handled, we can tell that there are some things that don't quite fit the usual narrative and just don't match up. The first thing that sticks out in my mind here is that whenever the media has an opportunity to criminalize a black person, especially a young black man, they do it. They never miss. They like Drake back in the early 2010s. A black man, because let's be honest here, black male children are seen as adults at 2 years old. As soon as the little dude can walk, he is a threat. A black man stabs and deletes the all-American white kid at the track meet. The racially charged imagery from this incident would get a good 5 days worth of traction on the news channels. 2 weeks if it's some proxy violence or some social movement like gets attached to it, like the Black Lives Matter. But we haven't seen anything of that sort. Pops even said that ain't what it was. So it took some of the wind out of that narrative, Based on his interview and the interview of the twin brother, they did confirm 2 things, though. There was an argument and Mr. Anthony was assaulted. The affidavit seems to confirm this as well. The kid seems to be squeaky clean, so there's really no media smear campaign that they can play out. They tried to sweep his social, but it came up blank. You've seen no video of the incident, no social media posts, nothing negative about the young man as far as we can find that has been like disseminated in the media. Now, as far as we can deduce, this played out similar to what eyewitness accounts gave, even though we haven't seen much outside of the family of the deceased. Track and football are very, very popular in Texas, and I'm pretty sure there was a decent crowd of spectators outside of the event's competitors, but I've seen no accounts of any of them being interviewed. What I'm starting to feel here is that they have no real reason to hold this young man, but are trying to figure out how they can make something up and enforce the harshest penalty possible to discourage any other black people from feeling like they have a right to defend themselves if they are approached in this manner. And they will be well within their rights, and those rights could be backed by the law. No, ladies and gentlemen, there has to be swift and harsh punishment for the harming of white bodies in America. That body has to be avenged and accounted for. And most importantly, they have to create the environment that discourages any other black person from feeling like they are entitled to equal protection under the law. This is not about guilt or innocence, justice, or finding out what really happened. This is truly squarely about making sure none of you ever pull nothing like this again. We can talk about why the event occurred for weeks on end. Eventually, somebody might even get around to speaking on how we can actually prevent things like this from occurring, but that ain't important. What's important is the preservation of white fragility. Say that again. What's important is the preservation of white fragility. The MAGA crowd is going to lose their minds if this young man is afforded equal treatment under the law. The same equal treatment as Kyle Rittenhouse, the same equal treatment as Daniel Penny. That would be the nightmare scenario for them. And knowing how white fragility behaves, we can expect some form of retaliation to be implemented. Laws were never intended to protect you, so it's a bitter pill for them to swallow when those very same laws that protect them have to be applied to you as well. See Ojilla, the juice is loose. No, what's happening right now is that the system of white fragility is trying to figure out how far they can go to prove their point to get their maximum effect. The next move is about how they can immobilize, discourage, and intimidate black people at large from ever having the reasonable expectation of equal treatment under the law. I would offer some advice and tell you all to tell your kids to mind their business and keep their hands to themselves, but you can't mind your business and you can't keep your hands to yourself. Where you think they got it from? In this system of white fragility, we can't keep overlooking the fact that they don't take losses. They make adjustments. And those adjustments are usually in the form of legislation. The system of white fragility thrives because they are protected by the law. And when that same law is taken advantage of in a way that it can apply to you, it is either repealed or changed. Today, this case doesn't seem to be about justice. The more you look into it, the more it looks like they don't have the legal footing, so they got to find something technical to make an example out of this young man. And now the family is changing their story from the initial interviews and the initial affidavits. Even though all the black people listening to me can visualize such an incident because nearly all of us have had an experience similar to this. When white folks ask you to move, you better not only move, but you better move fast before they change their mind about being nice. Whether they put their hands on you or not. Whether they actually have the authority to do so or not. Not an usher, not a security guard, not even an adult. Just a regular ass white kid. Now, on the other hand, I can envision damn near all the white people with a but on their lips. But he was in the wrong tent. As I stated earlier, there was a torrential rainfall and the temperature dropped 6 degrees during that time. We've had tornadoes all over the country recently. So what you telling me for real is that the black kid couldn't seek shelter during a rainstorm. Okay, duly noted. Got that. But he had a knife. If you ain't ever had to deal with the direct consequences of white fragility, you can't talk crap about this one. Please understand that he was more afraid of what you might do to him than what the cops might think. He, like most of us, didn't even trust the white parents that was on site to help. If your children mind their business and keep their hands to themselves, the knife never makes an appearance. Let that sink in because that ain't my reputation, it's yours. You got to understand this. It's too many times that young black kids have been around a bunch of white folks and, well, not even black kids, black people, period, been around a bunch of white folks as the only one or two black people and they never come back. All the white people come back in one piece and healthy. But the black people be disappeared and beat up in ways you ain't never seen before. Now, you might say, but he didn't have to stab him. Too many people, too many black people, like I said, have come up missing, dead, or injured in extremely severe ways that are totally unheard of when left to the devices of white fragility and their gross misinterpretation of justice. It's obvious that the poke was just to get them hands up off him. He was really trying to just get out that jam. Realistically, a person trying to do some real damage would have poked him repeatedly. He just so happened to get him in the right spot. Now, what I do want to state for the record once again is that this was an avoidable tragedy. There are 2 young men's lives affected that day. Even though I don't believe that Mr. Anthony escalated the situation, 2 17-year-old kids from rival schools beefing with each other at a sporting event is not unusual. Adults do this at sporting events 90% of the year. What is unusual is that the incident escalated to the degree and no adults, parents, staff, or volunteers were close enough to intervene in any meaningful way. This is a failure of enormous proportions on the part of the school district, the stadium staff, and the adults on hand. What we cannot allow them to do is to place the blame squarely on the shoulders of Mr. Anthony in order to make him an example that discourages any other black person from believing that they have equal protection under the law. This is not just a fight for his freedom. This is a fight to protect your rights. That's my 2 cents. Peace.